So get this. Ford, a company that's been going all in on EVs, just slammed the brakes on a key innovation team right in California, the biggest EV market there is. You gotta ask, why? Well, this is way bigger than just Ford's bottom line. It's a move that honestly shows some major cracks forming in the road to an all-electric future. Let's get into it.
Okay, so this is the big question, right? Why on earth would a giant like Ford, a company that's literally betting its future on EVs, suddenly pack up and leave California, the epicenter of the whole EV movement? It doesn't add up on the surface. So let's really dig into what's going on here.
All right, to really wrap our heads around the big picture, we have to zoom in. This whole thing didn't start with some flashy press conference in Detroit. Nope. It started much quieter, with a sudden shutdown in Orange County, California. And that was really the first sign that something was off.
And look, this wasn't some spur-of-the-moment decision. Oh no, this was a very calculated move. You see the timeline here. The official war notices went out on June 30th, 2025. The plan was crystal clear. Shut down the Irvine studio, pull most of the operations back to the company's home base in Dearborn, Michigan, and just keep a small team in Long Beach. It was, for all intents and purposes, a strategic retreat.
But beyond the corporate speak and the strategy, you have to remember there's a real human side to this. We're talking about 263 people. These are skilled engineers, designers, product managers. Their whole world got turned upside down. Yeah, they were offered the chance to relocate, but for the 5 people who couldn't make that move, it was game over. They lost their jobs. It's a stark reminder that these big decisions have a massive impact on people's lives.
So you might be asking, why go through all this disruption? Well, like so many things in the corporate world, it really just boils down to one thing: money, the bottom line. And when you put the two places side by side, the math becomes painfully obvious. California, specifically Irvine, is just expensive. We're talking premium real estate, a mountain of regulatory compliance. It's a costly place to do business. Now you look at Dearborn, Michigan. The company saw huge cost advantages there. Lower facility costs, lower wages, lower taxes. Plus you get to centralize your entire R&D operation. If you're looking to trim the fat, it's pretty much a no-brainer. Okay, but here's the thing. Ford wasn't making this call in a vacuum. To really get what's happening, we've got to pull back, zoom out, and look at the national scene. Because across the entire US EV market, things were starting to get a little cold. For the longest time, those federal tax credits were like rocket fuel for the EV boom. But suddenly, those credits are looking shaky, and the whole market is getting nervous. I mean, you've got analysts warning that if those credits disappear, EV demand could just crater. We're talking a potential drop of 20, maybe even 30%. That's huge.
And this isn't just some abstract forecast. It's happening right now, on the ground. Dealerships are telling us customers are literally stopping mid-purchase, totally confused about what credits they can even get. Some predictions say 1 out of every 4 potential EV buyers might just walk away. When you have that kind of instability, it's no wonder car companies are getting spooked and reevaluating everything.
Okay, so with all that national drama in mind, let's zoom back into California. You'd think California, of all places, the beating heart of the EV world, would be immune to all this, right? But what's happening is actually the opposite. It's become the center of this weird paradox that is putting a massive squeeze on automakers like Ford. So, check this out. On one hand, you have the state of California pushing these super aggressive goals for EV sales by 2026. They're mandating it. But then you talk to the dealers on the ground, and they tell a totally different story. At a lot of Ford dealerships, EVs make up just 3% of their sales. 3%. You have cars just sitting on lots for months. Even Tesla, the king of EVs, is seeing its numbers dip in California. It's a textbook example of an ambitious policy smacking right into market reality. So what do you do if you're Ford? You're stuck. You've got a nervous national market on one side and this really insistent state government on the other. Well, Ford's leadership decided it was time to make a move. They went public, and they didn't mince words.
Yeah, on a recent earnings call, CEO Jim Farley just laid it all out there. He basically said this whole state-by-state patchwork of rules just doesn't work. He even called the old fuel economy rules totally out of touch with market realities. That's pretty blunt. The message was loud and clear. Ford is pushing for one single national standard for everyone to follow. So, let's step back for a second. What does all this mean? What started as a decision to close one little design studio in California has blown up into something much bigger. It's become a real flashpoint, and it's shining a bright light on some serious fractures in this whole transition to an all-electric country. It's really amazing when you connect the dots. You start with one local event. A studio closes in Irvine. That pulls back the curtain on a company's cost-cutting plan. That plan, you realize, is tied directly to the nationwide uncertainty around EV tax credits. And that uncertainty is what's exposing this massive gap between policy and reality in California, which finally leads a major CEO to go public and say, hey, we need one rule for everybody. It's like a ripple that turns into a wave.
And all of this brings us to one final, really important question. Is what Ford did in California just a one-off business decision for a single company? Or are we actually watching the very first domino fall in a massive rethink of the entire American auto industry? The answer to that question, well, it's going to shape the cars we're all driving for a very, very long time.